Okay, so welcome back. So we'll start talking about these air pollution issues that we have been discussing earlier. So we in this particular video we'll start with looking at some of the rules and some of the individual air pollutants as well, and its impact and interaction in the atmosphere. So let's get started. So let's look at this Clean Air Act first. So Clean Air Act is essentially the law which is established by US EPA, which is looking at regulates the air emission from stationary as well as from the mobile source. We talked about that air stationary and mobile source earlier. So what it does, it actually gives power to EPA to establish national ambient air quality standards to protect public health and public welfare, and also the EPA has the authority to regulate emissions of hazardous air pollutants. So this act actually gives all those authority to EPA. So Clean Air Act, as say, it's an air pollution. It's a federal law designed to control air pollution, which is it developed in force. EPA has enforces this regulation to protect the public. So since, if you look at the 1970 when this Clean Air Act was enacted, since then in the US the population has grown up by nearly 53%, but air emissions from 6 common pollutants has decreased by 72%. So that was so the Clean Air Act did help in terms of reducing the air pollution. So and that's the reason, say, although we are sitting in India, but usually we try to look at the global scale as well, and US being a big country, biggest economy, that's always like one of the country where we look things in closely, and that's most of these rules started from there, and the many countries including India actually many times adopted the similar rules over here as well. So because of the proper implementation, and again I will stress, because of the proper implementation, again that proper has a lot of caveat there. It many people may say that it's not 100% proper, and I also agree with that. So but whatever they could implement, they could reduce the 6 common pollutants, emissions of 6 common pollutants has decreased by 72%, but it is started from 1970. So 30, and this data is from 2020. So 30 plus 20, 50 years it took to really get that. So it takes time, but we have to make progress, and we have to constantly keep on working on it so that it really happens. Having very strict rule, but without proper enforcement, without having infrastructure to enforce those rules, is not really helping us. So we need to develop actually good quality infrastructure, and both hard infrastructure as well as soft infrastructure in terms of skilled people, like capacity building to train people working in this area in the country. That's very much needed, and then we need infrastructure to make sure that we can implement all these rules. We'll talk about Indian rule in a minute. So 1/5 of the greenhouse gas emissions in 2012 were industrial. So good data collection is one of the most important thing, because once you have data, then only you can analyze how big is the problem and then what to do with that problem. So they say that they have saved $2 trillion by 2020 due to air quality improvements, and so it does save money, lesser hospital visits, lesser sick leave, so better for economy. EPA estimated that Clean Air Act amendments avoided 160,000 early deaths in 2010. So that's for a population of US. So 160,000 early deaths was avoided. Now with this COVID that is like going on and almost going over now, the vaccine is also out there. So this COVID has actually also showed that the areas where the air pollution is high, the impact of COVID was also pretty high, because when you have high impact air pollution, if you live in high air pollution area, you have a lot of negative impact on your health, and not only on physical health, but also on mental health. There are people have done work on environmental psychology. There is actually a whole discipline, environmental psychology, is how the environmental factors impact your psychology, impacts your behavior. And that does, like if you are in a very polluted area, you get irritated very quickly. If you are in a nice comfortable area, no pollution out there, you are more soother, you are more calmer, and that's we have seen that firsthand as well when when I have seen that at least firsthand. So, National Air Quality Index are limits of atmospheric of these are the 6 pollutants that cause smog, acid rains and under health hazard. These 6 they are called 6 criteria air pollutants or CFP for which limits are set. They are ozone, atmospheric particulate matter PM. So, that is why PM 10, PM 2.5 and all that, ozone, lead, carbon monoxide, sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide. So, these are the typically emitted from many sources in industry, mining, transportation, electricity generation and agriculture. In many cases, they are the products of the combustion of fossil fuel or industrial processes. So, that is the reason why you hear from whenever we talk about air pollution, number one thing you can hear is that let us reduce the fossil fuel consumption, because if you once the fossil fuel consumption actually leads to many of these air pollutants. So, and that is the reason in the solid waste also we say that don't try to burn the garbage, because that is again is creating the problem. So, criteria pollutants carbon monoxide, lead, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, PM and sulfur dioxide, these are regulated pollutants and thus the permissible level or concentration of each pollutants are based on human health and environmental criteria because of the risk assessment that has been done. So, carbon monoxide very quickly let us look at all of these. These are the odorless gas forms during incomplete combustion, it is cigarette smoking, incomplete burning of fossil fuel, motor vehicle exhaust. Health impact, it reduces the ability of blood to bring oxygen. So, reacts with hemoglobin and reduce the ability of blood to bring oxygen to body cells and tissues. So, if it does not bring oxygen to body cells and tissues, what will happen? The body tissues will start getting weaker and die, and they will die. So, this impairs perception and thinking, slows reflexes, cause headache, drowsiness, dizziness, nausea, can trigger heart attack as well, or angina, damages the development of fetus, young children, aggravates chronic bronchitis, it can aggravate anemia at high levels, it causes collapse, it can cause people can go in coma, irreversible brain cell damage and ultimately that can lead to death. So, carbon monoxide can have several depending on, again all depends on what level of exposure you have, that is very important to know. Then nitrogen oxide reduces brown, it is a reddish brown irritating gas, can be converted to nitric acid, again fossil fuel burning and then power plants and industries, that are the two major sources, nearly 50-50. Then you have the health effect, lung irritation, damage, asthma, chronic bronchitis, reduces visibility, you can say acid deposition of nitric acid, damage tree soils. HNO3 can corrode metals as one, can eat away stone on buildings, statues and all those kind of stuff. Sulfur dioxide, colorless, mostly from combustion of sulfur containing fossil fuels such as coal and oil. It's in the atmosphere can be converted to sulfuric acid. Then major human source, coal burning, that is for the major source. Breathing problems is the health impact, it can corrode metals, it can eat away stone, it can lead to acid rain, reduces visibility, acid deposition of H2SO4, the damaged trees, soils and aquatic lives as well. Particulate matter, it is a small, or you can particulates and droplets, those aerosols, they are small and light enough to remain suspended. So, major human source again burning coal or burning diesel. Health effect is throat irritation, lung disease, bronchitis. It can it aggravates bronchitis, shortens the life, toxic particulates as well, reduces visibility, dislodges building, property damage, it can corrode the soil, discolor buildings, clothes, fabrics and plants. So, that is what it depends on that. So, the degree of damage depends on the size as well. The smaller size are more harmful, as we can, because a smaller size can get into our body in a much easier way. Particulate matter, large particles may be trapped in the nose. If you look at your nose, you have like a small filter there with all those nose hairs and other stuff. It acts as a filter, so that will get clogged in here. We will not get it in. So, everything kind of gets through our nose. So, when I do that, whatever air pollutant around here can get into my body as well. So, if these nostrils, we have several like hair and other stuff which tries to prevent that pollutant from going there, and then it just stays here. You can we wash and then that will come out. But if it's a fine particle, they can get deeper into the, finally it will kind of go into the nose, and then it will come down and kind of get into our lungs, and ultra fine particle can even go into the bloodstream. So they do carry toxic chemicals which are again linked to cancer and other disease as well. So as you can see, anything greater than 5 micrometer can be trapped in the upper airways. 1 to 5 it can go into lung deposition. Again we are talking about micrometers. Less than 1 micrometer it can reach pulmonary alveoli through diffusion, and anything like 500 nanometer that can actually go quite far into the body system. So that's where the concern is, that we need to, that's why you have PM10 which is a 10 micrometer, and PM 2.5 which is 2.5 micrometers. So we just want to be not in maximum in the range of say the first and the second here. So we don't want too much of lung deposition and all that as well. So then we have another lead, which is one of the heavy metals, again solid toxic metals. Paint, smelters, lead manufacturers, it can lead to broad brain and other nervous system damage and mental retardation. It harms the wildlife. So that's lead is well known pollutant for in all the different environmental media. So it does affect the brain development and all that. So it should be basically avoided as much as possible, but these are its sources from which it is coming. Ozone is highly reactive, irritating gas with an unpleasant odor that forms in troposphere as a major component of photochemical smog. So major human sources, VOCs. VOCs emits mostly by cars and industries, and nitrogen oxide to form photochemical smog. So health benefits, breathable problems. So that's coughing, eye sore, throat irritation, chronic heart disease. It can be aggregated. It reduces resistance to colds and pneumonia. So it becomes your immune system kind of goes down. May speed up on lung tissues aging. Ozone may cause more damage to the plants than any other pollutant. The smoke can reduce the visibility as well. So in terms of property damage, damages rubber, fabrics, and paint. Sorry. So ozone is so basically, if you look at the ozone, if it's your NOx plus VOCs plus heat plus sunlight, that kind of leads to the low ozone. So ground level or bad ozone is not emitted directly into the air, but is created by chemical reaction between NOx and VOCs in the presence of heat and sunlight. So that's important. So emissions from industrial facilities or electric utilities, motor vehicle exhaust, gasoline vapors, and chemical solvents are some of the major source of oxides of nitrogen and volatile organic compounds. So that's where it's coming from. So if you look at the National Air Quality NAAQS, National Ambient Air Quality Standard. So for respiratory particulate matter, lead, and carbon monoxide, these are the numbers. I am not going to read these numbers, and these are the numbers which is like annual 24 hours number, annual 8 hour, 1 hour number. So this concentration in industrial area, concentration in rural area, sensitive area. How we measure is looking the respiratory particulate matter sampler, AAS method. So you take the sample and then you measure it on AAS. Lead is used on that. You can use non-dispersive infrared spectroscopy, and these are some of the methods of measurements, but you can use other methods out there too. If there is a newer methods which are much better method, you can use those as well. Sulfur dioxide, nano2, suspended particulate matter. So again, all those numbers are given in terms of annual 24-hour average. Of course, the sensitive area will be the least numbers. Industrial area will have highest. Residential will be low. Rural and residential, rural and urban, rural and other area, the residential area will have low limit, and sensitive area will be even lower. So that's what you see here in terms of data. Now, air quality index, which you see on your mobile, is a tool for effective communication for air quality status to people in easy terms, in terms which is easy to understand. Say if I take all those data, that carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, ozone, and we talk about all the other primary pollutants, secondary pollutant, make a lot of graphs and go and present in front of, say, the policy makers, in terms of in say if you are invited to present in front of the minister or in front of all these secretaries and all that. If there are people in the audience who are kind of have the science background or have the interest and have taken pain of going through all these different stuff, they will understand. Otherwise, what happens is you are just talking to blank faces, and then you will not if you are not able to communicate. So that's the number one. Say if I from time to time I keep on giving you a lot of tips and tricks other than this course. So in terms of communication is very important, like how you communicate is very, very important, how to say things. What you say is important, but what you say in what how you are going to say that is also very, very important. So, and how to get the point across, how to present data so that we get the point across. So that's the whole concept of this air quality index. So what they have done is they have taken all the different factors and try to put it in a simple way and come up with one number, so that when you look at that number, you can say, oh, air quality is bad today. You don't know whether it is because of ozone, because of NOx, because of SOx, or because of particulate matter. What you know is the air quality is bad today, and it could be because of different scenarios. So air quality is a effective, if you look at it's a effective communication of air quality status to people, which is in terms which are easy to understand. That's very, very important. It's easy to understand. Then it transforms complex air quality data of various pollutants in a single number. So Indian air quality index defines six categories. So let's get some other color here. So it is 6 categories, namely good, satisfactory, moderately polluted, poor, very poor, and severe. Each of these categories decided based on ambient concentration values of air pollutants and their likely health impact, known as the health breakpoint. So that's what how we come up with those numbers. So when you will look at your mobile phone next time, look at the first page, first screen that shows up on the top, where you get the date and time and all that. There will be an AQI number as well. If it's not there, just find out how to get that. So from your area also, you can always see what is the air quality index of your area, and then if you know the range of what is good, what is not that good, what are the different ranges out there, you know whether you fall under good category or very severe category or somewhere in between. So it's an effective way of communicating. It's an effective way of communicating air quality status to people, easy to understand. So okay, we already talked about that. Let's move on. So this is our air quality index number. Don't it's a good, satisfactory, moderately polluted, poor, very poor, and severe. So 0 to 50, 51 to 100, 101 to 200, 200 to 300, 301 to 400, 401 to 500. So it kind of tells us what should be the number of particulate matter and how much should be the other contaminants out there. So this is give us the range. So based on those range, and they have calculated this air quality index. So we should try to be between 0 and 100 for most part. So that 0 is good or satisfactory. That's kind of makes sense to be so we want the air quality index number to be between 0 to 100. So that's what I'm looking at. So if you look at air quality basics for ozone, air quality like a basics for ozone and particulate pollution. So you have green, yellow, orange, red, purple, maroon. So these are the daily air quality color. So it also gives us a level of concern, then gives us the value of index, which we saw in the previous one. So if it's in a green, you say air quality is satisfactory. Usually we use green to be go ahead kind of, isn't it? Green is go ahead, red is stop. So and yellow is you have a caution from your traffic lights. So similarly here, green, air quality is satisfactory, air pollution has no risk, little or no risk. Yellow, air quality is acceptable, but there may be risk for some people, some vulnerable people, particularly those who are usually sensitive to air pollution. Then orange is unhealthy, red is again unhealthy, unhealthy for sensitive groups. Orange is unhealthy for sensitive groups 101 to 150. Red is unhealthy for most of the people. Some members of general public may experience health effect, members of sensitive group may experience more serious health effect. Purple is very, very unhealthy, health alert, the risk of health effect is increasing for everyone. And then when you go maroon color, you are in a hazardous zone 301 and higher. So, health warning, emergency condition, everyone is likely to be affected. Now, based on our immune system, some of us get response, some of us may not get the response, but that does not mean it is not affecting us. It does affect in terms of our long term health as well. So, acid rain due to air pollution, it is caused by acid rain is produced by chemical reaction which is created by sulfur oxide, sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide when released into the air. So, when mixed with water, oxygen and other chemicals from rising high into the atmosphere, acid rain is formed. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide can be carried far by the wind, and so and especially and also even is dissolved by water, it can carry for a long distance. As a result, like being carrying the compound, it's you can have rain, sleet, snow and fog and all that. These compounds are created by humans. Electrical, for example, electrical utility plants sends out majority of SO2 and much of the nitrogen oxide are sending it to the atmosphere by burning. So, burning to produce electricity. So, that is how it is being managed. Effects of air pollution, I told you earlier that this Taj Mahal is getting affected. Shiny white marble is one of the 7 wonders, is turning yellow. Acid rain is causing extensive damage to monuments. So, here as you can see calcium carbonate reacting with H2SO4 creating calcium sulphate. So, acid is corroding houses, building bridges and other areas as well, like huge cost of maintenance per year. So, it will damage does not it will not kill trees directly, but it does weaken by damaging their leaves. The leaves damage means you cannot have proper photosynthesis, and that leads to a lot of other things as well. So, limiting the nutrients available, exposing them to toxic substances slowly released from the soil. It's quite often you can have injury or death of trees as a result of these effects of acid rain in combination with one or more additional threats. So, you have emissions, direct damage to leaves and bark, reduced photosynthesis and growth, increased susceptibility to drought, extreme cold, and then you have soil acidification, leaching of soil nutrients, you have acidic condition, you can have release of toxic metal ions, root damage, reduced nutrient and water uptake. So, a lot of things can potentially happen because of improper because of this air pollution coming. So, what is the solution, like what is the preventing and disposition? So, we have acid disposition. Prevention is reduce the coal use, burn low sulfur coal. So, that was why we had low sulfur fuel as much as possible, reduce coal use, increase natural gas, increase use of renewable energy, remove SO2 particles from NOx from smokestack gases, remove NOx from motor vehicular exhaust, tax emissions of SO2, you start taxing them, reduce air pollution by improving energy efficiency. So, in terms of this is in terms of prevention of what you can do, but there is also in terms of cleanup, we can go for oops, what happens, why it is not working, let me see. In terms of cleanup, you can we can put, if it is an acid now. So, we can we have to we can put some lime to neutralize acidic lakes. So, that can be done. Add phosphate fertilizer to neutralize also acidified lakes. So, those are done as well. So, let us stop here, and we will continue our discussion in the next video on looking at some of these other air pollution like climate, those ozone and other air pollution, other air pollutant issues as well. So, again I hope you are enjoying these videos. These are again to help you get ready for the class, and you can watch it later on as well. So, let us stop this video now, and then we will see you in the next one. Thank you.